Hey, hi guys. This is the instructional video for Monday, May 4th. And it is going to go over the units of measurement. So we're done with fractions, although I have a feeling we're going to come back to them to review. But we're going to go ahead and move on to the measurement unit, and this is 5MD1. So this is going to cover all the units of measurement and converting them. So this is going to be kind of a long video, so bear with me. And if you haven't already printed this out from your Google Classroom, I would recommend you pausing this video, printing this out to have a copy with you, or at least have a piece of paper that you can draw these tables in, or write the equivalencies of the different types of measurement that we're going to be covering today. So the first three vocabulary words that I want to cover are units, measurement system, and converting. So unit is any common measurements. A lot of times we call this a standard unit of measurement. And so what that means is everybody knows what that unit of measurement means, and it means the same to everybody. So for example, if you take the foot, and I know you've probably done this activity before and read that book, A Foot for a King, I think, or a King's Foot or something like that. And if I were to take my foot and I were to measure, I don't know, that plant or the rug or the TV or something with my foot, which most of you know I have really big feet, and you were to measure the same thing with your foot, we would have two different measurements because we're not using a standard foot. Now the word foot, the actual term foot, does come from a man's foot. 12 inches, or what we call a foot, was actually the average length of a man's foot when the Europeans first came over to the United States and started U.S. customary measurement. However, like an inch is an inch for everyone. A mile is the same mile for me as it is for you, as it is for a marathon runner, right? So that's why we use units of measurement. It's a common measurement. The measurement system is a collection of those units used together. So we use two different ones here in the United States. We use U.S. customary and we use metric. Now we use those for different things. So for length, a lot of times we use U.S. customary, and for weight in medicine, a lot of times we use metric. So it kind of just depends on what you're doing and what you're buying or what you're building that you would use one or the other. So it's really important that you know both. Converting means to express a measurement in another form. So that just means to change one unit to another unit. And you can change units among the two different systems. However, in this lesson, we're just going to be talking about converting them from one measurement to another within the same system. So from inches to feet or from feet to inches, that kind of thing. All right, so let's start with length, U.S. customary length. And to go from in order from least to greatest, we have inch, foot, yard, mile. And I went ahead and made this table here, and I filled in a couple of them just to give us a base. So if I have 1 inch, how many feet is that worth? Well, I know that there are 12 inches in 1 foot, right? So if I have 1 inch, I have 1/12 of a foot. If I have 1 inch, how many yards is that? Well, if there are 36 inches in 1 yard, then 1 inch equals 1 out of 36. And then how many miles? So how many inches are in a mile? Well, I went ahead and filled this bottom one in. Now, most of the time, we don't need to know these numbers. There's a handful of students in my 20-year career that have memorized these numbers, and every year they come up when you do your unit of measurement, and you might recognize them. There isn't really it's not necessary for you to memorize these numbers, but it's just good to know for reference. So in 1 mile, there are 63,360 inches. So 1 inch is 1 over 63,360. Okay, so then 1 foot. Well, we know that there are 12 inches in 1 foot, so how many yards are in 1 foot? Well, I know that there are 3 feet in 1 yard, so 1 yard equals 1/3 or 1 foot equals 1/3 of a yard. And then how many miles is that? Well, if I look down at this chart, there are 5,280 feet in 1 mile. So 1 foot is 1 over 5,280 feet, right? So if I have 1 foot, that's 1 out of 5,280 feet that I need to get 1 mile. All right, let's do yards here. So this is where we're starting at our base. So if I have 1 yard, how many inches is that? That's 36. How many feet is that? That's 3 feet. And how many miles is that? Well, if I look down here, there are 1,760 yards in 1 mile. So 1 yard is 1 out of 1,760 yards. All right, let's move on to capacity. Now, the easiest way I remember capacity, because I've been baking a lot, so you would think I would know this stuff, but you don't really need to know a ton of this. But something that always helps me is the big G. And I know some of you have done the gallon bot, which helps too. But I do the big G, which stands for gallon, and I draw 4 quarts within that gallon. Then I draw 2 pints in each quart. And then I draw 2 cups in each pint. And you can easily just figure out your equivalencies from this drawing. So I'm going to start, this time I'm going to start down here with the largest. So if I have 1 gallon, how many quarts is that? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4 quarts. If I have 1 gallon, how many pints is that? Well, there's 2 in here, there's 2 in here, there's 2 in here, there's 2 in here. There's 2 in each quart. So 2 times 4 is 8. And 1 gallon equals how many cups? Well, I have 2 cups in each pint. So if I have 8 pints in 1 gallon and there's 2 cups in each pint, it's 2 times 8, which is 16 cups. Okay, so let's move up to this one, quarts. I'm gonna do this one first. How many gallons? So if I have 1 quart and I need 4 quarts to make 1 gallon, 1 quart is 1 out of 4, right? And then how many pints are in each quart? 2. And how many cups? 4. Okay, pints. I'm going to start this way over here. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pints in a gallon. I need 8 pints to make 1 gallon. So if I have 1 pint, that's 1 out of 8. And quarts. How many pints are in a quart? 2. So one of them is 1/2. And then how many cups are in each pint? 2. Okay, so now we're going to do all of our fractions going this way. So if there's 2 cups in a pint, then 1 cup is 1/2 of a pint. If there are 4 cups in 1 quart, then 1 cup is 1/4 of a quart. If there are 16 cups in 1 gallon, then 1 cup is 1/16 of a gallon. Okay. Now you won't, to do this work that we're going to do today in your interactive notebook and the converting, you're not going to need to know these fractions, but it's just good to know. You're going to be focusing more on the whole numbers here. All right, so now we're going to move on to U.S. customary weight. And this is ounces, pounds, and tons. Now, most of the time in your real world situation, when you use measurement, you use ounces and pounds. Now, we use ounces and pounds when we go to the grocery store and we buy meat and cheese from the deli, or we buy potato salad from the deli. We also talk about ounces and pounds when we talk about small living things like babies or puppies. Babies are measured in ounces, so you might hear, oh, he was 7 pounds, 6 ounces. And so you do hear that a lot, and you need to know the equivalencies at least of this, and this one's actually pretty simple. So we're going to start down here. 1 ton equals 2,000 pounds. Okay, so now I'm going to leave this one empty, and I'm going to work my way down. So 1 pound, if you didn't know, equals 16 ounces. So now can I figure this one out down here? If I know that 1 ton equals 2,000 pounds, then how many ounces are in 1 ton if 16 ounces are in 1 pound? Well, then all I have to do is multiply these two, right? 16 times 2,000 equals 32,000. 32,000 ounces in 1 ton. All right, so the rest of these will be fractions. So if I have 1 pound, how many tons is that? Well, I need 2,000 pounds to make 1 ton. So 1 pound is 1 out of 2,000. Okay, so if I have 1 ounce, how many pounds is that? Well, I need 16 ounces to make 1 pound. So if I have 1 ounce, that's 1 out of 16. And for tons, that's 1 out of 32,000. Okay, I know that sounds kind of confusing. U.S. customary. Now this is much easier. Metric, yay! All right, we've got metric length, capacity, which we also call volume, and then metric weight, which is mass. All right, so this is pretty simple. Metric length, the base is meter. It's what we're gonna be using for all of our words. And then we're gonna use millicenti for length, the base, and then kilo. And then for volume or capacity, we use liter. So I'm gonna just cross this one out because we're not gonna need it. In the real world and in your math, at least for this year, you don't need to use centi. You're gonna use milli, liter, or base, and then kilo. And then for weight, we're gonna use gram as our base. That's the word we're gonna be using for all of our measurements. And we're gonna use milli, the base, and then kilo. All right, so we're gonna start over here on the largest because that seems to go the easiest to be able to work our way backwards. So 1 kilometer, and most of these down here, and this will kind of screw it all up, but we like to use centimeters here in the United States quite often. So to get from kilometer to meter, we're gonna go 1,000. So it's 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer. And then how many centimeters are in a kilometer? Well, there are 1 million here, 1 million millimeters in 1 kilometer. So how many might be there? Let's leave that blank and see if we can figure it out from doing some of our other work, okay? So we can fill this part out right here. We know that we have 1 meter, and we know we have 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer. So if I have 1 meter, that's 1 out of 1,000 that I need, okay? I'm gonna skip centimeters still, and I'm gonna go straight to here. So to get from here to here and from here to here, it's gonna be a difference of 1,000. So I need 1,000 millimeters to get 1 meter, okay? Now I'm gonna go up to this one right here, and we have 1 centimeter. Now, we're gonna work our way backwards a little bit here. Well, I know that there are 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter. Excuse me. I also know, just because I've worked with a meter stick in the past, that there are 100 centimeters in 1, there are 100 centimeters in 1 meter. So that means 1 meter is 1 centimeter is 1 out of 100 centimeters I need to get 1 meter, right? So I'm gonna leave it there, see if we can still figure out some of this stuff. And we did just figure that one out. I just told you that there are 100 centimeters in 1 meter. Okay, so let's go up to this one. 1 millimeter, well, I know that's 1/10 of a centimeter. I know it's 1/1000th of a meter, and I know it's 1/1,000,000th of a kilometer. All right, so what do we still have left? This one and this one. So we have this centimeter. So if I know that there are 100 centimeters in a meter, and I know that there are 1,000 meters in a kilometer, right? So how many centimeters are there in a kilometer? Well, 100 times 1,000 is 100,000, right? And that's just 10 times more than a million, isn't it? And there's 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter. And then this last one right here, we just kind of figured it out. It's 100,000, right? So if I go from, we know there's just a, to get from here to here, it's just a 10 difference. But to get from here to here, it's 100 difference, isn't it? And that's confusing. Now there's obviously decimeter that goes in between here. There's other types, units of measurement in our measurement triangle, which I think you guys probably looked at some point in E1. But you don't, and I know my fourth graders looked at it last year, but you don't need those for what we're gonna do in this unit and kind of everyday life. All right, liter and gram are much easier, I promise. So you've got milliliter, liter, and kiloliter. So I'm going to work my way backwards from here. So 1 kiloliter equals 1,000 liters and 1 million milliliters. Okay, so 1 liter is 1 out of 1,000 kiloliters, and there are 1,000 milliliters in 1 liter. Okay, now we're going to skip this one. We don't need it. And then we're going to work our way through here. So 1 milliliter is 1 out of 1,000 liters and 1 out of 1 million. Oops. Kiloliters. And gram is the same thing. I'm going to start my way with kilogram. And 1 kilogram is equivalent to 1,000 grams and 1 million milligrams. And then 1 gram is 1 out of 1,000 kilograms. You need 1,000 grams to make 1 kilogram. So if I have 1, that's 1 1,000ths. And then I need 1,000 milligrams to make 1 gram. And then up here, 1 milligram is 1 out of 1,000 grams and 1 out of 1 million. Okay. So now this is where this sounds tricky and it seems kind of confusing, but when you learn these two, it's super simple and you just have to use kind of your logic to figure it all out. So to convert from a larger unit of measurement to a smaller unit of measurement, you're going to multiply. And to convert from a smaller unit of measurement to a larger, you're going to divide by whatever the equivalency is. So take a look at this first one. 3 yards equals how many feet? So I'm going from yards to feet. That is larger to smaller, right? So I'm going to multiply because I need more of them. There's more feet in yards than there are yards. Now it might be the same distance, but feet are smaller, so there's more of them that take up space. So now what is the equivalency? 1 yard equals 3 feet. So in each one of these yards, there's 3 feet, or it's 3 yards taken 3 times, right? There's 3 feet inside each of the yards. So the equation is 3 times 3. So 3 yards equals 9 feet. Take a look at this one. 4 meters equals how many millimeters? Well, what's my equivalency? I know 1 meter equals 1,000 millimeters, right? And I'm going from a larger to a smaller. I'm going to need more of them. Now it's the same length, but it's a smaller unit of measurement, so you're actually you're able to fit more inside there. So my equation is going to be, I have 1,000 in each one of those 4, or 1,000 taken 4 times. So it's 4 times 1,000, which equals 4,000 millimeters. All right, this one down here. 2 pounds equals how many ounces? What's my equivalency? 1 pound equals 16 ounces, right? And I'm going from a larger to a smaller. It's the same amount. It weighs the same, but ounces are smaller, so you can, there's just more that go into it. You can count more of them. So my equation, in each one of those pounds, there's 16 ounces. So my equation is 2 times 16, which equals, 32 ounces. Kilograms to grams. All right, so this is still larger to smaller. I can fit more grams in there. I can count more. So my equivalency is 1 gram equals 1,000. 1 kilogram equals 1,000 grams. So in each one of these kilograms, there's 1,000 grams. So my equation is 5 times 1,000, and that equals 5,000. All right, so the other way is you're grouping. You're putting the smaller unit of measurement into groups to get the larger measurement. That's why we divide. So in this case, we're going from inches to yards. Well, I know that there are how many inches in a yard? 36 equals 36 inches equals 1 yard. So I'm going to take these 36 inches and put them into groups of 36. And so my equation is 36 divided by 36, which equals 1. No, it wasn't a very good first example. So 36 inches equals 1 yard. Take a look at this one, ounces to pounds. So I know that I'm going from a smaller unit of measurement to a larger. So I need to group these ounces into what? Groups of 16, because there's 16 ounces in each pound. So 16 ounces equals 1 lb. And so I'm going to divide that by 16, which I believe is 4, right? Or is it 2? No, 3, sorry. 3 pounds. And then over here, we've got 3 million millimeters equals how many meters? Well, you've got to put those 3 million millimeters into groups of 1,000, right? Because there are 1,000 millimeters equals 1 meter. So I'm going to divide this by 1,000. Well, if you remember anything about dividing these, you can just cross these zeros off, cross these zeros off. And what do I have left? 3,000. And the last one, grams to kilograms, smaller to larger. Well, I know that there are 1,000 grams in 1 kilogram. So I'm going to divide this by 1,000. Put those 5,000 grams into groups of 1,000, and that will be 5 grams. Okay, that may have been kind of confusing, and it's a long one, 22 minutes, crazy. But go back and rewatch it if you got confused at all, or go ahead and give your interactive notebook a shot. And if it's hard, either ask for help from a parent or an older sibling. Go ahead and message me on Google Chats or rewatch this video. It might help.